Hey guys, this is the Supercell. The reason why I call it the Supercell is because I have Marabou that's tied in and basically wrapped around the hook. And what it does is it creates the illusion of a cylindrical bait fish versus a flat or a one-sided bait fish. And when it gets into the water, the materials themselves, because I basically have three different materials. I have Marabou and I have some synthetics, and then I've got a little laser dub at the bottom. But when it gets wet, everything blends, it moves, it undulates, and just looks and comes alive. And with this pattern, especially with the yellow throat, I've got pink and lavender ice dub basically for that lateral line in there. What it does is it just looks like a rainbow smelt. And you can tie this fly really to imitate any bait fish that you want by changing the color of the Marabou, by changing the color of the flash, and then by changing the lateral line itself. Very easy, very simple, and incredibly effective. So, without further ado, let's get tying. We're going to start with the Daiichi 2460, size number 6. And I'm using my Vivis 100 gel spun GSP. And I'm gonna wrap it all the way to the bend of the hook. We're gonna do a dubbing loop. So going around, making about a 3-inch loop, which is way more than I need. You just basically need to go 3x the size of your shank. So I've got way more than that. And I'm gonna start because I'm imitating a smelt. The first thing that I wanna think about is the lateral line. And so for that lateral line, I'm going to use the ice dub in UV pink, and I'm just going to shred it a little bit, dub, and then go right up the hook. I don't care if it's on there very tight. I'm just trying to get it on there. Actually, I like to have it a little bit picky, so when I'm actually finishing the back part, I'll go through with the Velcro, and I like it to be able to come out and actually blend in with the rest of the colors itself. And that's also the reason why I rip it in half, because I want it to be picky. I want it to come out. I don't want it to be so tight to the hook that it can't basically be seen in the materials itself. And I'm gonna leave myself a couple eye lengths, and I'm just about there. Just gonna put that last little piece on there. And now I'm just gonna do a half hitch. And the cool thing when you're thinking about lateral lines and you're thinking about designing your own patterns, just basically look at the fly and then make your lateral line, in this case the center dub, to match the body color and the body design. Okay, so I've got my loop here, and I'm just going to move my vise out of the way for now so you guys can see how I develop the materials. And the body of the fly itself is just plain old white Marabou. So I've got some nice wispy feathers here that I'm going to use to lay down, and I'm just going to lay them out to the side. And now I'm going to strip them off and just put them right down. I'm not worried about everything being perfect. I recognize it's okay to have some things going off in different directions. And what did I take? Like 2.5, 3 inches there. I'm just gonna grab some more materials. Just go back over top. Try to spread them out across the entire amount. All right, so I'm happy with that. Now, next material is going to be ice fiber wing. This is UV silver. I really like this material. It's long and it's extremely wispy. You can see it's very fine, and I love that about this material. And it's long, right? You're not restricted by the length of the fibers like we are with the ice dub. The ice dub, you only get like an inch, inch and a half of material. This ice wing fiber has got to be like 4.5, 5 inches long. Actually longer, it looks like it's about 6. It's great because you can lay it down across the whole material. You can clip it into whatever sections or lengths that you want to get it in there. And I'm just trying to evenly distribute it across the white Marabou itself. Because again, I got that lateral line, right? That's going to be pink. And now I've got this nice UV silver that's going to blend in. And of course, the primary color is that white Marabou. All right, that looks good. Next, I'm grabbing my D-loop loon tweezers. You can see here. And I'm just going to go about the length of the body that I want up. So for the length here of this hook, it's about 1 inch. So all I need is really like 1.5 inches worth of materials in order to have this set right. So I'm just going to adjust things the way that I want them. I'm coming in with the D-loop tweezers, and now I'm just going to go underneath all those materials as best I can and take a quick peek at alignment. It looks good. And now I'm just going to get rid of this train wreck of materials off the back end, and we'll be able to do the finite trimming in just a minute. Okay, so I'm going to lay those down for a second, bring the vise back into position. Okay, looks good. Looks like everything's in focus. I've got my loop ready, my dubbing loop, and I'm just coming in with those loon D-loop tweezers, taking my time. And now I'm grabbing my Stonefo roto dubber, going to grab the back part of the loop itself, and now I'm just going to bring the materials into the loop, gently let go, and now I'm going to check for the alignment and the length to make sure it's where I want it. So these feathers that are down at the bottom, I want them to be longer than what's up top, just because it builds a little bit of taper into the fly. I'm not trying to make it extreme, just enough that I can see the difference. And I've got, if you look, just a little bit of a taper here. So I'm going to grab my scissors, going to come into the back and basically do a trim to get rid of those miscellaneous materials that I don't need. Again, I don't use wax. I know there's guys that do, but that basically eliminates your ability to do exactly what I just did, which is adjust the materials exactly how you want them. And if you just take your time, you've got no issues and no problems. So I'm just very gently rotating the dubbing loop. I'm doing it slowly because I don't want materials flying out of there, especially when you first start it. And now I'm just going to grab my Velcro and very gently and carefully pull up and getting those materials to come out at a 90-degree angle. And what you can see is that ice wing fiber is in there looking great. It's got that Marabou, which is mixed in there really nice. It just really blends a nice looking body. And when it gets into the water, because everything is so fine, it moves and just looks lovely. Okay, so now I'm going to start using my rotary feature on my vise, being careful to avoid that hook point. And as soon as that material starts getting on there, I'm just going to preen it back so it's going out the back of the hook. Now what you're going to notice, and what you hear me say all the time, is I want to make sure and I want to maintain space between the wraps. And the reason why I do that is, one, I like to blend my materials. I want there to be translucency. I want to be able to see the body, and also I want the fibers and the materials to move. If you take a fly and you put a bunch of Marabou on it and you stack it right next to each other, what you're going to get is a Marabou ball, and it's not going to move nearly as much as if you take your time, you space your wraps, You pull your material back, you give it the ability for the water to move through. It just looks better, and by the way, it casts better as well because it's lighter. It doesn't hold as much water when you get ready to backcast and throw it out. All right, so I'm getting to the front of the hook. I've been taking my time preening my materials back. Very happy with that. And I'm gonna do another wrap up front. A little more bulk up there. I'm happy with how that looks. So now I'm gonna come behind it twice. And it doesn't have to be perfect here. We're just trying to lock the materials into position. 2 behind. I'm gonna pull my materials back, come in front, come on top, cinching it down. Okay. All right, we got everything locked into position, which is good. Now, if you look at a rainbow smelt, and typically any bait fish that you have, across the back you're gonna have a darker color. In this case, I wanna use some Marabou that's gray and black. It's mottled, and you can see the feather here. Very nice modeling. This is by MFC. I absolutely love their Marabou. And I'm just gonna I'm gonna get rid of some of these junk feathers on the back, but I'm just gonna grab about, I don't know, what is that, maybe a ½ inch, a ¼ inch. I think that's more like a ½ inch. And you'll have to eye it yourself, and sometimes I don't get the right materials on there. I just want it to go over the back, and all I'm trying to do is create a different color across the back, so when the materials all blend together, it looks like a bait fish. So I've got my materials on top. I think I'm going to need a little more, but I can do that in just a sec. I'm going to go over top of it loosely twice. I'm going to make sure the materials are on top. I'm going to pull it back, go underneath twice, cinch, lock things into position. Just going to clip the excess materials off, pull everything back, wrap forward, and now I'm going to stop and just take a quick peek and see how that looks. And I think that looks pretty good, but because I'm extremely anal retentive, I'm just going to put a couple more on the side. I'm just going to grab four or five different fibers, put them on the side here, just to make it go down just a little bit more. All right, so that's where I want them. Okay. And you guys know me, I'm lazy. I'm just gonna use some Gorilla Glue. Just put it on like a ¼ inch of the GSP here. And that'll be the back part of the fly. All right. All right, great. That's not coming off. Locked, loaded. Just grab my razor blade, come in. Done. All right, for the front part, we're gonna use a 2460 size number 4. It's a Daiichi. I put a medium-sized brass cone on the front. You can put anything you want on there. You can put a bead on there. I like running 3/16 tungsten beads, but in this case, I want it to be more of a shallow running, so I'm just gonna put on the cone there. All right, so let's put on the back part of the fly. Just checking the mono to make sure things aren't crossed. I want it to go straight. That's a way to make sure that you've got that articulation, how it'll maintain. I'm just gonna line it on the back, do like 3 or 4 loose wraps. Make sure I've got a distance in here of at least 3/4 of an inch gap across the back. And now I'm just gonna cinch that down. All right, that looks good. Now I'm gonna cinch it down. You can see how nice that GSP really works. Okay, time for a little bit of that Gorilla Glue, just to lock everything into position. In all my years of streamer fishing, I've never had anything pop doing this Gorilla Glue in mono. And I'm just gonna come back, wrap right over top. I don't know if you noticed, but the GSP just hit the tip of the hook, which is amazingly sharp, and it didn't rip. Again, that's one of the great things about using GSP when you're tying. Okay, I'm gonna lock that feather in. We don't need to worry about that for a little while. All right, so I'm gonna do something. This is something that I've been doing recently to help keep the materials from wrapping across the back, and all I'm gonna do is create a dubbing ball on the back here, and I'm just gonna use some of the UV, right? This is the UV pink ice dub, and as you can see, I'm just going to create a ball, and the goal is just, again, to help keep the materials from wrapping around the hook itself. Okay, another dubbing loop, did about 3 inches. I'm gonna tie off, and then I'm going to come forward, and I'm gonna use, again, because we're creating the lateral line, so I'm gonna use that ice dub. I'm gonna tear it in half, apply it to the GSP, shred, rip, put it on the hook, repeat, keep going, and there we go. Going up the hook, and I'm gonna get up, and I've got about 1/4 inch of space up there. And if you take a look at a rainbow smelt, what you're gonna notice is at the front, it's got a little bit of like a lavender kind of look. So that's what I'm gonna use. I'm gonna use a little bit of that ice dub UV lavender, and I'm just gonna rip that in half too. And what you'll see when you get this fly wet is that these materials blend together, and you get just such an amazing, cool look to the fly itself. And just coming forward with that UV lavender ice dub. And I'm gonna go right underneath the cone. Okay, good. I'm just gonna quick tie that off. Just doing some half hitches there. Now I'm gonna get my thread out of the way. I'm gonna move the vise, and we're gonna make another dubbing loop. All right, so same process as before. Gonna take some white Marabou, and I'm going to get rid of these junk feathers, and I'm just going to pull off an entire side here that's like two inches. Lay it down, doing my best to keep things straight. The other thing that I would always recommend before handling Marabou is to wash your hands. I know that sounds freaking goofy, but it saves you, because your hands, if you got something on there from dinner or whatever, it won't stick to your Marabou and pull it all over the place, which will drive you absolutely insane. All right, that looks good. I think that's way more than what I actually need, but plenty of Marabou there. I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna use the ice fiber, UV silver, and I'm just gonna pull it, clip it, pull it out, clip it. Just trying to spread it evenly, recognizing that some of it is going to get spun out and pulled off. Okay, Nice even distribution there. Looks good. Okay, next, loon D-loop tweezers. Going underneath the material as best I can. Taking a look, I'm gonna adjust a little bit because I want it to be skinnier at the back with more material at the front. Looks good. Now I'm just gonna do a quick dirty cut to get the majority of the material off. I'm gonna dump that. Bring the vise back. Okay. And now I'm gonna put the Marabou into the loop. Grab my stone faux rotodubber, hook it. Get those materials in there. Again, no wax, no need. Open those tweezers, pull back. You're creating a little bit more tension on the stone faux dubber. Check those lengths, make sure you got them where you want them. Do a little trim. Now you can just kind of tap everything into position. Looks good. All right, I'm gonna start spinning and just going slow. I don't want the materials to go flying out of there. I want to try to keep everything at a 90-degree angle as I spin it. Now I can speed up a little more. And I'm just going to stop there for a minute. I'm going to grab my Velcro, gently pull it through the materials. Try not to yank things out of there. Looks good. Start spinning things just a little bit faster. There we go. Hit it one last time with the Velcro. Okay, that looks really good. And remember, I've got my little dubbing ball on the back, so I don't want to go behind that. I'm going to start wrapping now. And I get a couple wraps right behind that dubbing ball, and now I'm going to start preening the materials back. I'm going to go one more over the back because I want that to be covered pretty well. Looks good. Now I'm going to start coming forward, again maintaining that distance between the wraps. So there's translucency, so there's movement, and so there's blending of the materials. Okay, that's good. We're all the way up at the front. I'm gonna come behind it twice. 1, 2, and now I'm going to come in front. 1, 2, and I'm gonna cinch everything down and clip it off. Okay, grab my Velcro, and I'm gonna just start pulling materials out. I want a little bit of that UV pink to start popping through. I want a little bit of that lavender to start popping through. And of course, I want to make sure that any of those feathers that might have gotten bound down as I was doing this are now free to move. Okay, looks good. All right, so I'm gonna go back to my gray and black mottled Marabou, which I have right here. And I'm gonna grab off a little bit heavier section than last time. I'm gonna grab about 3/4 of an inch. We'll start with that, see if I need any more. I want the tips to stop just before the back hook on top. I've pinched it with my left hand. Gonna come up and over twice, loosely, grab the materials, pull them to the top of the hook, exactly where I want them, come in front, once, twice, and I'm just gonna come down, lock everything into position. Which looks good. And I'm gonna put just a few more materials in there. Again, I want that back to be distinctive, so I'm just grabbing maybe another 1/4 inch of Marabou Gonna line the tips up. Same exact thing. Once, twice, loose, pull up, get it where you want it. Come in front, two times, cinch everything down. And now I'm just trimming that excess off. Now if you've done this right, what'll happen is that the materials themselves, when you set it, will actually get pulled underneath the cone, and you won't actually be able to see the materials. They actually get nested underneath, which is really nice. And the final touch is that I'm just going to take a little bit of Senyo's Laser Dub in yellow to create a throat. So I'm just pinching off, it's about 1/4 inch. I'm going to double it up, and so it's fairly thin in amount of material. Remember, you can always add more if you want. I'm going to put it, double it over the thread, come underneath, directly underneath, and go 2 wraps and just cinch it down. Make sure it's centered. Yep, it looks good, because you can always take it off now. But after my next step, where I use the super glue, you're not going to be able to move it ever again. So, I got my super glue. Going to go about 1/2 inch on the thread. More than enough. Again, make sure the materials are where you want them. Hold everything into position. Come forward once, twice, and then just lock. And now you can just hit it with the razor. And that fly is almost ready. The last thing that you want to do, I just got some taperizing scissors. You can just use regular scissors. I want the tips of that yellow to stop right at the hook point. And so with the taperizers, just go back, forth. It kind of makes a nice little blend. All right. And there we have. Back it off a little bit so you can see it. And there we have a rainbow smelt. And I'm just going to take a couple of these materials off of the back here. And the one thing that I want to share with you guys is you can use this technique really to create any bait fish pattern that you want. This happens to be, a rainbow smelt imitation. But it doesn't really matter. You can use this process to create anything that you want. You can take any color Marabou. You can take any color UV material, right? The ice dub, any throat that you want. It's up to you and your imagination to what you want to create and how you want this fly to look. So anyway, hope that helped you out.